Hook 3 sentences. I was standing in the rain with 2 crumpled dollars in my pocket, and the woman under the shelter spat at me, "Get your filthy hands off my bench." I handed her the money anyway, because what else do you do when someone is crying and you're the only warm body nearby? You help, even if they hate you for it. That tiny moment, $2 and a soaked collar, turned into a storm that wrecked lives and then somehow fixed them. My name's Marcus Reed. I used to be an emergency medic. Then life ground that up and spat it back out at me. No badge, no certifications, just a mop and a name tag that said, Marcus, Night Maintenance. I live in a tiny apartment above a deli in Bayview. My mom, Evelyn, sleeps with pill bottles on her nightstand, and my sister Lena has been serving time at East River Correctional for 3 years for something she didn't do. I work 2 jobs. I take the early buses so nobody notices me, and I save every extra dollar for a 30-minute phone call with Lena each week. $12 because in prison, love costs. The morning routine is surgical. Wake at 4:45, make oatmeal that bubbles over if I get distracted, memorize which pills go in which slot for Mom, kiss the photo of my old life, EMT uniform cap under Dad's arm, and leave. I used to save lives. Then I tried to speak up about something rotten in a private hospital, and speaking up cost me my license, my career, and a future that looked simple when I was 22. So I became a man people see but don't see. The one who mops up after champagne and apologizes for the crumbs on silk. That night in the rain changed nothing about my paycheck, but it changed everything about context. The woman I handed the $2 to was wearing a coat that swallowed her. Expensive heavy, the kind that says your problems are a different color than mine. She shouted, "Don't touch me, you filthy man!" And I remember thinking her words had a rhythm like they'd been practiced. She laughed at the idea I could help. I left soaking and empty-armed, and I thought that'd be that. 6 months later, she walked into my life again. Not at a bus stop, but in an opulent hotel ballroom where I was on cleaning duty for a charity gala. She wasn't hunched or broken. Now she was composed, 2-story, smile pearls, the kind of woman who could say a courtroom sentence and not blink. Judge Margaret Hale. You don't always know who you're facing when you hand out kindness, do you? Turns out, Judge Hale had signed the order that sent Lena away. I was sweeping behind a velvet curtain when a young woman in a ruined dress bolted into the service hall and hid in a bathroom stall shaking. She had a burner phone and a look I knew. Terror that wasn't from booze, but from being hunted. "Please," she whispered, "don't let them find me." I locked the door from the inside, sat with her on the cold tile, and when she slipped a wad of bills into my hand, all she had, I thought of the $2 I gave to that judge months ago. She was Grace Hale's granddaughter, and she whispered, "My grandmother keeps the family safe, but not in a good way. Be careful." A few nights later, Judge Hale knocked on my apartment door. It was ridiculous on paper, a judge in a cardigan standing in my narrow hallway asking to come in. And somehow it made sense when I opened the door and saw her eyes bleeding with shame. "Marcus Reed," she said, "I'm here because of you. I need to tell you the truth." She told me she had been pushed by her son, Victor Hale, developer, board chair philanthropist, to sign transfers and rulings that protected his companies, one of which profited from a chain of elder care facilities called Harborwell Health. People who asked questions disappeared into bureaucracy records, got rewritten, and sometimes people who should have been free ended up behind bars. She told me she had gone to the bus stop that night because she couldn't live with what she'd done, and you have to picture the scene. Rain in her hair mascara like black little rivers, and me, an invisible man, offering change. "I called you names," she said. "I said terrible things." She'd carried those words like a stone in her chest for months. But then she did the impossible. She left my mother a check for a month of care at a legitimate memory unit. She gave Lena the money needed to hire a real lawyer, and she handed me a folder of documents, pages and pages of transactions, emails, signed orders, that mapped out how Victor had built an empire on other people's suffering. When power smells blood in the water, it moves fast. A week after I found the first set of files in a coffee shop bathroom where Hale had accidentally left them, my entire world tilted. I was walking into the supply closet at Ashton Tower thinking about which antibiotics Mom needed when security grabbed me. "Marcus Reed, come with us." They cuffed me for corporate theft. A flash drive with proprietary Harborwell financials found in my locker. They had footage, they had planted witnesses. They had the kind of money that buys stories. In lockup, I met a man named Raphael who told me Meridian's, no Harborwell's, name as if it were an apology. "They made me disappear, man. Found evidence overnight." It wasn't original. History has patterns. The same operators, the same playbook accuse the whistleblower, bury the facts, keep the machine running. I sat on a cot and tried not to choke on the taste of bile. My bail was astronomical, $250,000. I don't think I need to describe what that meant. Then Grace, literal and figurative, showed up. Grace, who'd slipped me cash in that bathroom, turned out to be a scraper of documents and a collector of secrets. Victor's arrogance had given her access. Craig Hale, Victor's nephew, long suspect and quietly disgusted, wired money so I could post bail, and he slid across a folder that felt like a detonator bank transfers employee complaints a recording of Victor telling someone to handle people who asked too many questions. He said, "You need to tell your story. You're the only person she might listen to, the woman at the bus stop." For the first time in years, I had something like a plan. Lena's appeal had a thread to pull, and if the right person stood up, the whole web might come down. Judge Hale, the same person who once spat at me, eventually did what I couldn't have imagined. She walked into a courtroom and confessed live on the record. She held up that crumpled $2 bill I had given her 6 months earlier because she'd kept it. She said it reminded her of the day she met an act of simple human kindness when she had nothing to offer but shame. Then she named her son, and the room cracked open. The fallout was cinema with a moral center. Federal agents' subpoenas. Victor Hale being led out in cuffs while his expression tasted betrayal more than fear. Harborwell, Health's shell companies, started to collapse under their own weight. Victims came forward and commissions of inquiry spilled pages of the truth into public view. The prosecutor in the case told the judge, "This is unlike anything we've seen," and I thought, yeah, because most people keep walking. All charges against me were dropped. Lena walked out of East River on a bright morning 3 years after she'd been taken thinner and older, but steady, and when she ran into my arms, I thought my rib cage would split. Mom learned to laugh again on some afternoons. I got a letter that said my medic certification was reinstated, that they'd reviewed my complaint and the shameful way it was handled. It read sorry in a way that didn't erase the years, but it opened a door. The story didn't end with handshakes and ribbons. Judge Hale pled guilty to judicial misconduct and now works quietly with legal clinics trying to help the people she helped condemn. Victor got a long sentence. Harborwell was dismantled, but not before 100 families had to relearn how to trust the system. I put the $2 bill in a frame and hung it over the little table where Lena and I drink terrible coffee and laugh about the old jobs we had. People ask me, "Aren't you angry at her?" And sometimes I am, angry at the damage, at the years stolen. But mostly, I try to be grateful for inconvenient mercy. If there's a heartbeat in this mess, it's that small acts are seismic. The $2 didn't pay for justice, but they shifted a conscience that eventually couldn't bear the weight of complicity, and that conscience helped open a door for my sister and for others. People talk about pay it forward, like it's a bumper sticker, but I've watched it unfold messy and slow, and it works sometimes in ways you can't predict. So here's the open question I want you to wrestle with when you see someone who looks like they're less than human. The person at the bus stop, the one in the uniform, the stranger with tears. Do you step in or step aside? And when power asks you to look the other way, what do you do? This story ended with justice for my family, but it started with an assumption, a slur, a shove. And it took a judge admitting her cowardice to make things right. If this reached you, comment below. Tell me if I did the right thing. Tell me if Judge Hale paid enough. Tell me times you've seen mercy shift a life, or when you've seen power hide the truth. Debate it, argue with me, tell your own story, because if we don't name the things that hurt us, they'll stay hidden, hit. Like if you believe small kindnesses matter, Subscribe if you want more stories about people who were underestimated and came back, and share this with someone who needs to remember that the tiniest act might be all it takes to start a revolution.